You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Curelop and Zeona McIntyre.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curelop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host Zeona McIntyre, aka Z Money. Z, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I got home yesterday, so I'm no longer in France. I am no longer traveling Europe, and I flew business class, which is really awesome.
Wow.
So
You must
I'm
be
feeling
really
actually
rich or
pretty darn
something.
good. No, I'm really good at travel points.
Oh, tell us how you get business class, woman.
Well, you just have to spend a lot of money on your credit cards, which is easy to do when you're a realtor, as you probably know. And then, we house hack to the minimum, not house hack, but credit card hack to the minimum, where we just get one credit card per year. There's people I know that get like 20 to 40 cards and just they're super into it. But even with that and just putting every expense that we, ever have on those cards, it adds up. You get those big sign-on bonuses when you start out, and then you have to use it before you close the card. So I had 300,000 points, and I was like, we are going to just do it up. So we got free hotels, and we flew business class, and, I still had stuff that I had to do cash back. So it is great.
Look at you. Yeah, I do even more minimal. I don't even do credit card hacking anymore, but we spend so much that, and on the business, of course, not personally, that it ends up being probably equal to a free flight each month, or maybe even 2 free flights each month. So domestically, we're not going to France every month, but yeah.
Well, you should taste that business class life. But I got to tell you, because once you start, it's, woo, I'm like, how do I go back from this? Yeah.
I've never flown business class. I kind of don't want to go there. I'm not there yet. I'm not mentally prepared to go business class yet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think it's only worth it if
business
you're
classes,
doing overseas, domestic is so short. It doesn't matter. But that was a 9-hour direct from Paris, and it was real nice.
Wait, did your seat recline back all the way?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and we had
you could
the
sleep
chef
horizontal?
that prepared our meals was a 9 Michelin star chef. It was just it was a lot.
You were like, I don't want to get off this plane. Yeah,
I was pretty into it.
That's the only way you could be in a good mood the next day after a 9-hour flight coming back. Well, anyway, speaking of good moods and flying and business class, let me tell you someone who is flying in real estate right now. We got Mr. Kenny Smith on the show, and Kenny is one of my favorite people because we like to joke around a lot about football, and he's a really easy guy to talk to, really down to earth. But he's crushing it out there, both as a real estate agent and as a house hacker, and I'm excited to hear his story today.
Yes, let's bring him on.
Kenny Smith, what is up, brother? Welcome to the show, man. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it,
dude. Thanks so much for coming on, man. It's been a long time coming. We've had some good talks and some good times, and we helped you. We helped you buy your first house hack with Michaela
you did
2 years ago, I think.
December of 2020. So we're coming up on 2 years.
So we're coming up on 2 years.
It's been a busy couple of years.
It's been a crazy couple of years, and I'm excited to get into it. But why don't we take it back even further than 2 years, and tell us when you kind of first heard about financial independence and what made you make that switch.
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew I always wanted to, get into real estate and eventually make a whole bunch of money, right? But I had no idea how to do it. I wasn't reading any books, any podcasts, whatever. I heard it was a good idea, right? So back in 2018, I was working for a beer company at the time. I sold beer for almost 4 years. I thought at the time like a condo is what I wanted to get into, right? I kind of looked at single family homes as this like scary, like, oh my gosh, there's too much going on with this. Like, what if a furnace breaks, or what if this happens? I'm not going to have the money to replace this and that. So, and at the time, really all I could afford was a condo. So I bought a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo right by City Park here in Denver. So 617 square feet, right by City Park. I knew I wanted to start small, right? And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with this place eventually. I knew I wanted to rent it out, right? I wasn't going to live there forever. That's certainly the case. But it really wasn't until 2020 with my now fiance Michaela. We had heard about Bigger Pockets through a buddy. Actually, he lives up in Fort Collins, and he owns some property out in Alabama and other parts of the country, whatever. And he kind of told us about Bigger Pockets, and so Michaela got on there, and she did all this homework, and I didn't really know much about it. I was just like, okay, well, it's a real estate platform, whatever. At the time we were renting a place in the Berkeley neighborhood, and she found Craig on Bigger Pockets, and she was like, like it would be super cool if we found like a 5-bedroom, place, and you'd be cool with living with like 4 other people, right? And I was just like, no, I don't know if I want to do that. But she's like, well, this guy Craig, like he lived behind a curtain for a year. Like, I mean, if he can put up with, living behind a curtain, like you can certainly, live with 4 other people. If he could do it, we could do it. Right. So that's kind of how, we started the process, and we kind of went from there.
Awesome. So what happened to that 617-foot condo? Did you end up buying that, or?
Yeah. So I bought it. I bought it back in 2018. I'm still renting it right now. So it's been a long-term rental. Once I moved out in, what was it? I guess early 2020. So right when the pandemic hit, I decided to move in with Michaela, and we got our own place.
So I just want to give you a little tidbit, because City Park is right by the big complex of all the hospitals. Do you know what I'm talking about? Right off of
I do.
Colorado.
Yep.
You should furnish that and make it a medium-term rental. Have you thought about doing that?
I have, and I'm glad you brought that up. So, I got to a point where I was like, I didn't really want to deal with any issues with the property. I was like, you know what, let's just stick someone in there for a year. It's paying the mortgage. I wasn't cash flowing anything, which is fine. But next year, once the lease ends in 2023, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I thought about maybe selling the property and using that money to buy another one, but I figured with the amount that rent has gone up over the last couple of years in that location, it's right by Colorado and 9th. There's all these new bars and restaurants, new developments. Right down the street from Rose Medical Center, and then the National Jewish is right across the street. So that's exactly what I want to do. So
awesome.
Nice. You're in a perfect location. Y'all, I actually have a place in City Park that's 617 square feet, but it's on the north side of City Park. So I was like, is this guy my neighbor? But that would have been funny. But I want to hear about, like, what did you buy that first property for? Because this is kind of like the for real deal. Even though it wasn't super intentional, it was your first deal that you're now making money on. And so, like, what'd you buy it for? What's the rent? What's the mortgage? And I'm curious to hear about what it's worth now.
Yeah. So I bought it. It was listed for $175 at the time. Obviously this was pre-pandemic. So, I mean, here's the thing, like with the Denver market, like people forget it was still a very difficult market to buy in. It's been like that for several years. So I lost out on a couple of 1-bedroom, 1-baths. But my agent at the time had talked to me about, they're tearing down part of the Rose Medical Center, and they're putting in this new like division of all these, new bars, restaurants, everything. And he's like, this is a great opportunity. The place is old. It was built in like 72, not much upgraded. So, I went in there thinking like, all right, well, yeah, I can put some sweat equity back into this place. So it was listed for $175. I got it for $180, and at the time I was like, "Oh, I overpaid." It was like just a $5,000 difference. But yeah, super excited to get it. My mortgage at the time, I paid a 4.875 interest rate. Since then I've refinanced down to a 3.3, but I believe my mortgage is around 880 with an HOA fee of about 334. So my monthly expenses are probably right around 1215, and right now I'm renting it out for 1320.
And you can be renting it out probably for $2,000 to $2,500 once it's a medium-term rental. Just want to throw it out there.
I know it,
Yeah.
and it's funny because my fiance is a travel nurse, right? And
So
she
knows all about it.
She knows all about it, right? I know about Furnish Finder, and she's traveled all over the country and stayed in all these different places. So she's kind of the one that got me into all this, and she told me about Furnish Finder, and just looking on Furnish Finder and kind of seeing what things are going for in the area, I know I can make a lot more money. So,
yeah, I mean, you still have to invest probably about $8,000 into furniture, maybe less. Right. Actually, I did about that much for a 2-bedroom, so maybe it's more like $5,000, but it definitely pays you back. And because you have your low interest rate, it's less exciting to sell because it's nice to keep those low interest rates.
100%.
Yeah. Great. Hey guys, if you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent like us, you might want to go to Kaplan. That's where I got my license, and I found that they made all this really dull information actually kind of interesting and very memorable. So if you're looking at getting your license, see if they have your state. They cover a lot of states, but not all of them. And if you want to get a little discount, use our code INVEST2. So the word invest and the number 2. Thanks, guys. Well, okay, so that was your first deal. So let's kind of fast forward to where you went with Michaela, and she convinced you to do this 5-person house hack. How did that adventure go?
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great question. So, once we found out about Craig, right, we found him on Bigger Pockets. She knew she wanted to start looking at houses, and I completely supported her. But I did put an end to the 5 people in one house. I did not want to do that.
Okay, so you didn't do that.
We did not do that. No, we were living by ourselves at the time. I haven't had a roommate in, I don't know, probably 10 years. I'm 33 years old. I was like, I don't want another roommate. Okay.
Yeah, I feel you.
So what we wanted to find was that, that duplex, right? We would live in the top floor, and then we would rent out a basement, looking for that side entrance. And we didn't really know exactly if we wanted to Airbnb right off the bat or do like a medium-term rental or a long-term rental. We were just trying to figure this out, right? So we met up with Craig, and, Craig showed us some homes, and, I remember meeting him for the first time, and we're looking at basements and an unfinished room in a basement. And he goes, oh yeah, like you can knock down this wall. You can put electrical here, plumbing here. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I'm like, this is going to be really expensive, like there's no way. But it all makes sense to me now. Right. But at the time I was like, this isn't going to work. Like there's no way. So we put in a couple offers on a couple places, and we did lose out, I think on maybe 2 homes, but it was the third one that we bought in, I shouldn't say we, because Michaela was the one who actually bought the place, right? I was there for the moral support, so to speak. But yeah, we got a place in Westminster. It was right off 79th and Federal. But that was in December 2020. It was listed for, I believe, $410. And we got it for $430. So it was a 5-bed, 2-bath, 3-1 upstairs and 2-1 downstairs. Pretty much had everything we were looking for. Like this thing was, for the most part, like turnkey ready. The division between upstairs and downstairs was already done. It had the side entrance, so you just went up the driveway and the side entrance was right there. It had the full kitchen downstairs. They even did the laundry for upstairs and downstairs already, which I know is super rare. So yeah,
I remember this one pretty clearly actually, because I remember that the whole downstairs, the theme, I think the people prior to Airbnb did it as well, and the whole theme of the house was coffee. And if I remember correctly, Michaela hates coffee. So no, it's funny because Michaela's like, "Oh my god, I hate coffee. I can't believe this whole place is decorated as coffee." It was like brownish walls with like coffee bean like photos on there. And it was just like that is like actually ironic and hilarious. And so I can't take it. It's not coffee beans anymore, but
it's not. It's funny. I went down there and I was like, I kind of like it. And she goes, "No, like this is all. This all has to go." So
that's so funny.
No, so funny. So what did you guys do to, did you guys, I guess curious as to like how much you spent on like the furnishings of the Airbnb? That's something we don't talk about too much. And like, were you creative there at all or?
Yeah. So, well, it's funny. Like when we moved in, we knew that like, downstairs was going to be our number one priority. We wanted to get that done as quickly as we possibly could because we wanted to start renting right away. So we actually used, a lot of our furniture from our prior rental. So it was kind of a hodgepodge, a little bit of everything. But it worked. We definitely made it work. It's funny when we moved in, we started, furnishing downstairs right away. That was again our first priority. We started taking pictures. We got it up on Airbnb. We decided that's the route we wanted to go. We wanted to maximize our profits, especially because it was our first house hack, and we knew we wanted to do this again. We didn't know how, but we were like, let's make as much money as we possibly can. We knew short-term rentals was the way to go. So we ended up furnishing it. We still need to finish up like little things like paint and, trim work and all these little things. Right. And we get it up on Airbnb and we had no idea what to expect. We were like, okay, well, we were paying $2,100 at a rental in Berkeley and her mortgage, was about $2,250. So basically the same. It's a wash. We were like, well, if it doesn't rent, like whatever, it's basically the exact same we were paying. So we really didn't know what to expect. So put it on Airbnb, right? And within 3 days, we just started getting bookings like crazy. So we listed it, I think on like December 21st, we had a booking like the next day. So I was freaking out because I was like nothing's done. Like we still need to finish the paint. We still need to finish the trim. We still like all this stuff. Right. So it was like pressure was on, and we were off and running. So
that's one thing I love about Airbnbs because you can kind of do work in between guests. When you have a long-term rental, a lot of times people lose 2 weeks or more of vacancy because they want to do the floors and they want to paint the walls and everything. And then you have to wait until people are moving, which is usually halfway through the month or the end of the month. But with an Airbnb, you can kind of like do a couple things, have a guest for a week, and then like you have a 2-day window. You're like, okay, we're going to go get a bunch of pillows and like update some stuff, So that's kind of how I've gotten used to doing stuff, is not having much vacancy if you can help it. It's sort of just like whenever you have a free window, make it a little bit better. So it sounds like that's what you guys kind of did.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And that's something we still do today. It's like we know that if there's projects that are coming up, it's like we'll wait until the off season maybe when we know it's going to be a little bit slower in time block, certain days where we can go in and do that routine maintenance.
Great. So I like hearing that Westminster actually books up. So if someone's listening and they're not used to the Denver area, Westminster is kind of a commuter town in between Boulder and Denver. It's not too far from Denver, depending on where you're at. But sometimes it seems like, oh, will people actually book there when they could be right in the heart of Denver? But I've been hearing from lots of clients that they do really well. So that has worked out well for you?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because, the neighborhoods we're living in, they're not the nicest, I'll say, but they're nice enough, right? So my big concern was like, oh, well, people are going to come stay with us. Like they're going to be like, oh, there's, a little bit of trash on the street or, whatever. It's not like you're living with the Joneses down the street. So that was my concern right off the bat. But surprisingly, one of our the best things they like about our place is the location. So we constantly get reviews about how much they love the location. And to your point, it's so close to Denver. We're only about 10 to 12 minute drive to downtown. So you just hop right on 25 and it shoots you right down there. And then we're right off 36 as well, right? So people, love to go up to Boulder. Exactly. So what are like the couple things that people like to do when they come to Denver? One, they like to go check out downtown, 16th Street Mall, do the touristy thing. They love to go to Boulder, and they love to go to Rocky Mountain National Park. And we're kind of in that sweet spot of we're super close to all of that. Surprisingly, like I was worried about the location at first, but it's turned out to be really a blessing. So.
Great. So let's go into the numbers a little bit. So your mortgage was about $2,250. You had a 2-1 downstairs. You used most of your own furniture. What kind of setup costs did you end up having? And then what is your Airbnb making you?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll kind of just give you a rundown of, maybe some of the upfront expenses we've had, I guess, since we've been operating, because realistically, like, we didn't have too much when we moved in. We really didn't. It wasn't until maybe like the third week where stuff, maybe started happening that you have to plan for, right? Let's see. We had a guest that checked out, right? She was running the dryer, and it's a gas heated dryer. So I go downstairs and the whole place reeked of gas, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is a big problem. So I started freaking out a little bit. I called Excel Energy. The guy came out that day. It was I couldn't believe how quickly they come out, but I guess if it's a gas leak, it's pretty important.
It's dangerous.
So, yeah. So he pulls up, and he's like, he gets out of his car, and he's got his little like gas reader or whatever it's called. And I meet him outside. I'm like, oh, are you coming in? He goes, the readings are pretty strong. So I'm like, oh, that's not good. And he's like, all right, I think you'll be okay though. I'm like, well, should I get out of the house? Like, what are we doing here? So finally, like, we go downstairs. He shows me where the leak was. And I guess it was from the gas line to the dryer. And what they did is they didn't have like one fluid line from the dryer to the actual gas like hookup. They had two, and it was connected. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to have any type of connection between that line. So that's where the leak was coming from. So right off the bat, that was like $2,500. So, Michaela and I were like, oh no, like, what did we buy? Like, this is, we bought a lemon of a house, but we realized like, this is just part of the process. Right. Let's see. We had to do that. Let's see. We had to put in a new central AC unit, which was about $5,000. We had to finish one of the privacy fence on the side of the house. We put in a new fence in the backyard. We put in a paver patio. That was all about $5,000. Irrigation system, about $2,200. So out the door, since we bought the place, we're probably right around like $33,000 in renovation costs. So.
But that's a lot of upgrades. Like a lot of those things you probably didn't need to do, but these are things that will pay you later, having like a nice patio and things like that. So
absolutely.
I think it seems like you could have just rented it and not done much of anything if you wanted to.
100%.
Yeah. So what, I know nightly rates are very seasonal, but what's kind of the average that you're making on that Airbnb?
Yeah. So that downstairs unit, and I guess I'll just talk about that first. Again, it's a 2-1. We're getting, or at least that first year when we were living upstairs, we were getting about, I would say peak season 149 during the week, maybe 169 on the weekends. And then we offered a weekly discount of 10% for a weekly discount, 30% for a monthly discount. So that's what we were getting kind of peak season. But I'll take it a step back. So we bought the place during COVID, right? And the first month or two, we had a lot of short-term stays because it was over the holidays. And we were getting good money. It was probably like $149 a night, something like that. But we wanted to offer that 30% discount on a monthly basis because we just wanted to fill it, right? We did not know really what we were getting ourselves into. We didn't know what to expect. Given the area and everything else. So we were like, well, let's just try to offer like a really big discount just to get the place filled. So we did that. And, at the time with COVID, everyone was working from home, right? So people wanted to travel. They wanted to go different places. And Denver, is a super sought after place to come travel and work. So that was probably from February to maybe April or May. It was month to month to month stays, right? With that 30% discount. But after that,
you're kind of like 2,500 to like 4,000 if you were doing it by nightly.
Yeah, exactly. So I think when we were doing monthly, we were right around, I think 1,900 to 2,100, right? And her mortgage was 2,250. So essentially living for free. But after those month stays, we realized, we wanted to make more money, and we knew summer months, was definitely going to be the peak season. So we decided we want to kind of, not shy away from monthly rentals, but we didn't want to offer that big of a discount. So we really wanted to, keep it as a true STR and see, how much money we could make.
Great. So I'm assuming since you have another house hack, you now rent out the top as well. Is that true?
We do. Yeah, absolutely. So again, that upstairs is a 3-1. We moved out and bought another house hack after the first year. And since then, which has been about going on 7.5 months of renting that top floor, that's done incredibly well. We're getting about 169, 189, maybe 169 during the week, 189 on the weekends for that during peak season, and then maybe closer to like 149, 169 in the off season. So it's been incredibly profitable.
So it's safe to say you're doing about 3,000 for the downstairs and maybe 4,000 to 5,000 for the upstairs. Is that true? A month?
Yeah.
Just because months are easier for people to wrap their heads around.
Sure.
They don't know how many days you're booking and all of that. So
right.
That means that on top of your, $2,200 a month, you're cash flowing like maybe 3,500 or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly
crazy.
Right. Just kind of breaking down the numbers for the first year. I mean, our cash on cash return was, right around 69%, which is great. And then, and if you look at, your net worth return on investment, we're looking at right around like 110%. So that obviously includes equity, of the property, buying down the mortgage and everything else. So an ARV, of course.
Great. And then when you left, did you guys leave all of your furniture upstairs and just go, okay, we'll start fresh at the next place? Because that's kind of how I've always done it. Just seems easier.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So most of it we did. Again, I don't really have an eye for furniture. That's my fiance's job. If it was up to me, there would be beer signs on the wall and all sorts of other, interesting stuff. But
it's good it's not up to you.
That's right. So she has a knack for that. But yeah, we left, going into it and furnishing upstairs. We bought all new stuff like off Amazon and, a couple of things off Facebook Marketplace. So going into it, we knew we were going to leave most of that stuff there besides obviously like our couch or whatever. So, but yeah, we were able to furnish a couple other things through Amazon Facebook Marketplace. So.
Yeah. And so what I love about that too is that if you use all the furniture you have for the bottom unit, which is kind of what you guys did, then you have time. So upstairs, it's not super comfortable to like have your mattress on the floor and like not have some of, end tables and lamps, but like you can get that stuff over time. And when you get it over time, it's so much cheaper because you can utilize things like Facebook Marketplace, garage sales or whatever. And when you need to furnish a place in 3 days, you buy everything new and you just don't have the ability to save. So that's a really great way to do it. Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. So let's go into this new house hack. So the latest one that I think you're living in now, what month and year was that one purchased?
Yeah. So we purchased it pretty much exactly 1 year later. So December 2021, we took out an owner occupied loan for the prior property. So you got to stay there for a year. So this one was also in Westminster, and coincidentally, it's like 3 minutes down the road from our other one, which makes it very convenient.
That's a good way to do it.
It's a great way to do it. It makes it super nice because, right now, since we only have a couple house hacks, I'm the handyman, right? I'm a host. I have a full-time job, so I'm kind of doing everything. So if something does come up, I'm able to pop over there and take care of whatever I need to take care of. So, but
Blessing
yeah,
and a curse.
Exactly. Tell me about it. It's funny. My Michaela's over at the other house right now. Our fridge just went out, so she's got to try to figure that situation out. But it's all part of the process.
I think that's hilarious that you sent her for that, because if a fridge went out, like, I would literally have no idea. I would be like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not going.
Is it plugged in? Yeah.
Yeah. Or our guests were like, oh, the freezer's working, but the fridge part is not. It's like 60 degrees. And I'm like, have them unplug it, plug it back in. I mean, it's an older fridge, right? I think it's like...
Yeah, I don't think that works for fridges. Not like
probably
a computer.
not.
Yeah.
Right.
Like computers, yeah.
Just reset the whole thing.
You should ask him to reset the modem.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, she's asking me like what she should do, and I'm like, I sell real estate. I'm not a fridge expert, but anyways.
Unfortunately, with appliances, I find that they're more expensive generally to fix than to just replace. So what I usually do is just get something from affordable used appliances, which you have all over Denver,
Right.
and just swap it out. Maybe you put it in the garage and you have an extra beer fridge, but.
There you go.
There you
Absolutely.
go.
I like it.
Yeah.
So going back to this other house, so it was listed at $520, which, at the time it was still a very, very hot market. I had just gotten my real estate license, so I represented myself in this transaction, and we were actually able to get it for $505. So I got a $15K off, which was awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, super, super happy about it.
Is that because of your commission, or is that because you negotiated well and you're really interesting and awesome and clever?
The latter, for sure.
Yeah, of course.
No doubt about it. I'm really not sure. I just, there wasn't a lot of buzz on it for whatever reason. The thing is, like, us as house hackers, we look at homes way differently than your everyday home buyer, right?
Yes,
people aren't looking at a side entrance and saying, oh, well, this is going to be a great house hack. No, it's like you have to have an eye for it and know what to look out for. So for whatever reason, there just wasn't a lot of traction. It was a flip, right? And I've actually gotten to know the guy pretty well. So I know, how he kind of operates and everything. So they wanted to sell this quick. Obviously they had some money tied into it, and I knew that. So yeah, I was able to kind of negotiate down, and we got it for $505, which was awesome. So another 5.2, so very similar setup, or I should say layout, another ranch style home. It was a 3-1 upstairs and a 2-1 downstairs. I would say a lot of it was renovated. They did put a new kitchen upstairs. The flooring, it's original hardwood from 1957, but it seems like they refinished it. They redid the upstairs bathroom. New carpet downstairs, definitely new paint, new trim, stuff like that. But there was definitely still some work I had to do. So first and foremost, we knew we wanted to AirBNB the basement again, just because it was so profitable and it worked out so well. So we needed to separate that entrance. So it wasn't necessarily separated. There was a side entrance. So same thing where, you go up the driveway, the door is right on the side of the house, but when you walked in, there was a small entryway right by the kitchen, and that just needed to be closed off. So we had a wall up, basically, both sides of that, and then we put a little door in between our kitchen to downstairs, and we needed a kitchen downstairs. So it was a two bed, 1 bath downstairs, but there was an empty room, right? That was just a concrete wall, right? But it was right below the kitchen upstairs. So we knew, like, the drain line was right there. So we knew it'd be super easy to tap into that. But we had to do, obviously, a lot of work, right? We had to fur it out. We had to put drywall, paint. We had to run the plumbing, electrical, furnish it, cabinets, the whole.
Yeah, that's a big job.
So
what were your numbers on that? Like, what was your monthly payment, and then just all the work that you did up front to get it ready?
Yeah, absolutely. So my monthly payment was, my monthly payment is $25.90. So obviously the market, got hot, right? Had to pay a little bit more money for this home, but still a great interest rate at 3.2. which was awesome. Out the door, about $40,000 of renovations. So, and that's, within the last, from the time I bought it until, maybe 2 months ago when we started renting it. So it took about 4 months to get everything done. But right now we are bringing in on a monthly basis about, peak season, about 4,000 a month. And then right when we started, it was closer to 3,200, 3,500, which was in April. So,
hey everyone, big news. Investify has now partnered with Rent Ready. And yes, we've partnered with Rent Ready because that is the software system that both me and Zeona use to do property management for our rental properties. It makes things super easy. We can send applications, get background checks and credit checks. Tenants, when they come in, can pay rent automatically through there. They can submit maintenance requests, do everything you need to do for property management all in one place. That's why Rent Ready is the thing that we've done. I've been using them for years now. And that's why we reached out to them for a relationship on the show. And so again, super excited to have them on board. If you go to rentready.com and use the code Investify, you'll get 50% off your first 6 months. That's right. 50% off your first 6 months. If you go to rentready.com, sign up and use the coupon code INVEST2FI. And can't wait to see you there. Let us know, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on wherever, and let us know what you think of Rent Ready. Because again, I think it's an amazing software. I use it all the time. You can access it from your phone. Amazing stuff. So thanks so much. And let's get back to the episode.
So do you have any concerns about Westminster changing their laws? I know they've been talking about it a little bit. Usually when a city changes, they grandfather in some of the people that were already doing it. But
sure.
What do you think about that? Because it obviously would change your cash flow a lot.
Absolutely. So it's a great question. We've definitely, thought about that before buying both of these properties. We realized that, from an STR standpoint, it's possible we're not going to be able to do this long term. But I think for us, it's, that was plan A, right? And it's really critical when you're buying a house hack that you have a plan B and you have a plan C, right? Because I think there's too many folks that buy house hacks that maybe don't have a kitchen downstairs, right? And they live in upstairs and they want to Airbnb the basement. And they bought that place with the whole idea that they're going to STR the basement. Well, what happens if STRs go away, right? Now they're stuck because no one's going to want to stay there, for 30 days or more if there's no kitchen. It's just not a viable option. So for us, we knew that was critical, to put that, because I considered when I bought this house, we have a third bedroom downstairs, at least the new one. Instead of a kitchen, let's put a bedroom there. Let's maximize our profits to have more people stay down there. But in the back of my head, I was like, and that would have been a lot cheaper too, right? But in the back of my head, I was like, I have to prepare if STRs do go away, which is very possible because Westminster's, really the only municipality in Denver Metro right now that doesn't have laws in place. But we know they're working on it, right? We've been in contact. Our team has been in contact with the folks that are, putting these laws in place. Whether they grandfather us in or not, I think for us long term, our goal is to switch to medium term rental because it's just not viable long term to go out and buy a bunch of STRs. You can certainly do it, but then you have to pay an STR management company. And if they're going to take anywhere from 15 to 25% of your profits, well, then what's the point? Why wouldn't you just go right back to a medium term rental, which sure, you're not going to make as much money, but it's definitely more manageable for us, once we start to scale. Because I think, we might do one more house hack with an STR in the basement, and I think that's it. We don't really want to. I don't think we can handle anymore, unless we switch those STRs to MTRs. So.
Yeah. So, you said a couple of great things. This is why I like STRs in urban markets because you can very easily have a plan B and a plan C. If you're doing vacation rentals in a vacation only market, often people don't live there. Not that many people live there longer term, and they're not going to pay your crazy high prices. So with an STR in an urban market, yes, you can make a little bit less and have it be a medium term. So that's a great, backup plan. And there's still lots of demand for that. One thing you said about a manager I think people don't consider this very often, but you can hire an assistant that does all your management for like, you know, $25 an hour, which is a lot less than 25%. So
Sure.
that's kind of how I've worked that out over time when you have enough places. So you kind of need to have a little bit of volume, but sounds like you'll be there very soon.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, Kenny, quick question too. Have you guys done anything with like any smart pricing or like automated messaging or anything like that to kind of alleviate you from some of those those like kind of recurring things?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we definitely have, as far as like automated messaging for Airbnb, best thing ever. I can't tell you how awesome that is, and I really wish VRBO would pick that up. They don't, and maybe I just don't know how to do it, but it's really frustrating when you get VRBO bookings and you can't set up those automated messages, as far as like when they book and, explaining to them, kind of the intro message. And then of course, like the day of check-in and the day of checkout, it saves you a ton of time.
Yeah, you just don't know how to do it. So I'll send you a software after this. So there are probably hundreds of softwares that people use for automation, but I really think you only need two. People will, offer you to buy all kinds of things, but just keep it. It's good to like remember that you're trying to be frugal, you're running a business, and you only need the basics. And so the basics I would say are the pricing software and the auto messaging. And I use Hospitable for auto messaging, and you can connect all the channels that you use. So if you're using Airbnb and VRBO, it all goes through Hospitable. And I have probably a series of 7 messages that are like, the time of booking and 2 days before check-in and the day after check-in and, those kinds of series of messages, and they can get them all there. And then what's great is if you book somebody on Furnish Finder, because it's not a marketing platform like the others, it's offline. You can still plug them in manually by using their email, and they'll still get that whole series of messages. So it is cool to have a system like that to try to make a little bit more of the MTR stuff automated, because it's more of the like new kid on the block and it's not as automated as the STR stuff. So yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'll send you an email after this.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, totally.
And to kind of further elaborate on the pricing strategy. So when I lived in San Diego, I lived in San Diego for 3 years before moving to Denver. I was actually a hotel revenue manager. So my job was basically to do pricing and revenue strategy for a small family-owned hotel company. So when we bought this first house hack and then the next one, I was like, well, I used to do this for a living, right? Like let me set the prices and kind of see what happens. But as we scale, to your point, am I going to want to do this for, 5 different units or, 7 different units, whatever? Absolutely not, right? There has to be some type of automation. And shout out to one of our other Fight team members, Brian Balducci. He talked to me about this. So I was like, all right, well, I'll have to look into it, but haven't gotten around to it quite yet. But it's definitely on the radar.
Great. Yeah. I find that you're just not on top of it enough. You're not going to know about every cool event that's happening in Denver. You just can't. So, you're going to miss out on a couple times where you probably could have charged $100 more a night or something. I want to go back to you creating the separate kitchen. Do you think you would do that again? Or when you guys are looking for your next house hack, look for something more done?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because it was a lot of work, right? We did hire a GC to do the kitchen and to do the separate entrance, and then a couple other really small things. And unfortunately, I didn't vet the GC as well as I should have. I'll just say that. It was not the best experience. Of course, he came in. He was a referral, right, from one of my buddies, and me and my buddy are still friends. If he's watching this, we're good, man. But the work he did was, I guess it was fine. It was just more of the timeline, right? He came in and said, I'd be able to get all this done in 4 weeks, right? And it went on about 10 weeks. So it was a lot longer.
Yeah.
than what was anticipated. And it really was the only thing that was holding us up from renting out. And I guess what was more frustrating than anything was, he was a flipper and he kept using his flip that he was working on as an excuse of why he wasn't showing up to my place to do the work.
Yeah,
and
but
it's
that's
funny
like
because
here nor there.
correct. I'm sorry. It's not my problem. You told me one thing, right? You
Absolutely.
should, follow through. But it's funny. It's not until after the project was done and we started renting that I read The Burr Strategy by David Green. And he has a great section in there about incentivizing contractors. And it's basically like, if you put in the contract, if that contractor gets your job done, every day he gets it done early, you basically, will give him back $100, right? And if your, STR is charging $150 a month, or excuse me, $150 a night, then it's a win-win, right? So you're really profiting,
Absolutely.
$50. And on the contrary, if he is delayed, right, every single day he's delayed, you charge him an extra $100. So it's a win-win, right? It incentivizes him to get it done early. You can make more money if he gets done early. And if it gets done late, you're still covered. So
that is great. I need to get around to reading that book. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a good one. So
yeah. One of the things that I like about buying places turnkey is that you don't lose all that time, right? So you said it took you about 4 months to get this place up and running. A lot of that just gets rolled into your loan. And I know now interest rates are not super favorable, but I don't think that'll always be the case. And so it's nice to just say, I close on this home on a Friday and I could have it rented on, Tuesday if I worked my butt off all over the weekend and got it all furnished. So yeah, there's just a difference there. But yeah, it just depends on your preference as an investor, I think.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah.
Kenny, so we're talking a lot about your investments, your house tax. I'm curious as to what you're doing for work during these times and how you're qualifying for these loans and all that kind of stuff.
It's a great question. So, I've kind of worked a number of different sales jobs. I've sold everything from windows to beer. I sold beer for 4 years, and then most recently I was selling commercial roofs. So that's really how I got approved for the second house hack was through money I earned through my roofing job. Now keep in mind the first house hack that we got, my fiance was on that loan, right? So, she didn't have, I guess, that debt on that factor towards getting our second house hack. And neither did I, right? The only debt I had was my condo. But the lender looked at that rental income as, income to combat that debt, right? Which, we were able to get approved on and get financed. So.
Great.
Awesome. And so what made you, you mentioned before you got your real estate license, what made you go from wanting to be, a roofing salesman to then start selling real estate?
Yeah. It's a great question. So it's funny because I've been wanting to get into real estate for a number of years, right? It was always maybe next year. I know it's expensive and it's going to take some time to get my license and everything else. But it really wasn't until, we decided we wanted to do this house hack thing that it kind of made sense for me. I was like, well, why don't I get my license? You start looking at properties. And down the road, once we buy more and more properties, I can just use, my license to buy these properties and I get my commission back. It'll help basically, get us into the next property without having to pay, any type of down payment or at least cover the majority of the closing costs. So that's what I did. And I didn't really realize how much I loved it until I got my license and I realized that this is what I want to do. So since then, I've left my my roofing company. I left them a couple months ago, and I've been selling real estate full time and helping other people, find their house hack. So
great. I love how most of Craig's agents first bought a house with Craig, and then they became agents. It's like
right.
I don't know
Right.
the little wheel. It's great.
Yep. It's true.
Yeah.
It's because once you do it once, you realize it's really fun to start helping other people. Because once
Mhm.
it's impacted your life positively, you're like, how can I get this on as many people as possible? And
Mhm.
it's rewarding for sure.
Yep.
It's also addicting to be in deals. And if you can only buy one house hack a year, you're like, well, let me just be in all these other people's deals and like negotiating and seeing like houses. It's just fun. Yeah.
It really is.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to move into the final part of our show, but do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Yeah. I would say just get started, right? I think that's really important. There's too many people that try to analyze everything way too much, and it's kind of it doesn't allow them to take any action, right? And it just starts small. I started with a 1-bedroom condo, right? And then we were able to get this house hack, and then a year later, because of that first house hack, and because of that condo, we were able to get our second, and it's kind of this snowball effect. Obviously, do your homework, work with a great agent that knows exactly what they're doing and what to look out for. But at the end of the day, you got to take action if you really want to make this thing work.
Absolutely. Great. So we are going to move into
The final four.
and the final
All
four
right.
is 4 questions that don't have to be fast, but they usually are. And yeah, we'll just jump right in. So the first question is, what are you reading right now?
Ooh, yeah. So, well, I'm reading a couple books, but I just finished The Compound Effect. If you've read that one before, fantastic book. It's really about just, doing the little things on a daily basis that really will get you to where you want to be. And then I just started one I've been waiting to read for quite a while, but Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Really, really good book so far. He was a former FBI negotiator. And it just kind of talks about negotiation skills and how you can use it in everyday life. So really great book.
I feel like that one's so meaty that like I almost want to listen to it like every year and just be like, oh yeah, I should try that. It's just
He's
great.
a great storyteller.
Yeah. All right. Question number 2, Craig.
All right, Kenny, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It's a great question. To keep it simple, I would say life is relatively short. If you're not happy with where you're at or where you want to be, then change it, right? Every day you're not moving towards something you want to do is another day wasted to realizing your true potential. I know that sounded like so cliche, but it's so true. It really is. And I don't think I realized that until I got a little bit older. I'm 33 now, but it's really good advice.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of some advice that I got like way back in college. And one of my mentors said, every single day, you're either going to get better or you're going to get worse. You're never going to stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so make sure that you're always like getting a little bit better every day, and you'll see tremendous effects, which is like The Compound Effect, which is the book you read. So Look at this all kind of funneling together.
100%.
All right. Question number 3. What is your why?
So really to keep it simple again, I want to enjoy life on my own terms, right? Not on someone else's. And I think that's why I've gotten into financial independence, into working for myself. Me and my fiance, we want to have kids in a couple years. And I want to be able to spend as much time with them as I can. I don't want to have a job or someone else telling me that I can't, or I have to stick to a certain schedule. I want to see the world. I want to travel as much as I possibly can. And I don't want to do that just 2 weeks or 3 weeks out of the year. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the great thing about house hacking with Airbnb is that you're getting so much cash flow off of these couple of houses that you could be financially independent now, maybe when you turn your place into a medium-term rental, that first one, or even, at the end of this year when you get your next house hack and you guys start renting that out. So it doesn't take a really long time and it doesn't take a million properties. So that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
So true. All right, Kenny, last question. And this is one I made up just for you. Would you rather watch the Bills lose 4 Super Bowls in a row or watch Tom Brady win 4 Super Bowls in a row?
Oh, I knew something like this was coming. So for those of you who don't know, I am a huge Bills fan, and Craig is a big Patriots fan. You know, I was born in 1988, right? Their run of the 4 straight losses was 90, 91, 92, 93. So I don't remember them, and I'm fine with that. But all the people I talked to said it was like the worst thing ever. But I'll say this: name another team that is going to go to 4 straight Super Bowls again, win or loss. It's never been done, and I don't think it'll ever happen again. So
I don't think so, man. I don't think so.
no.
All right. Well, that was a cop-out answer because you didn't answer. So we'll say you want to see Tom Brady win the next 4.
Uh-huh.
Well, so where can people find out more about you? You know, I know you're, a real estate agent. You're crushing it out there. Tell people where they can, where they can work with you, or et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. So my Instagram is at Kenny Smith Realtor. And then if you want to check out our website, I'm on thefiteam.com, working under Craig here.
Woohoo! And we're going to Cabo in a few months, which I'm excited about. So awesome. Kenny, well, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. It's such an inspiring to hear your story. I love that, I feel like I'm kind of like, I've been there with you since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to see you and Michaela grow and prosper. And now you're working on, number 3 here soon. So, yeah, man, this is great. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And that was Kenny Smith. Zeona, do you like how I can say his last name?
I am so proud of you. I know when I first jumped on with him, I was like, oh, what's your name? Because it just said Smith. And then on the top corner, I saw that it said Kenny. And I was like, God, I'm so dumb. But yes, easy to pronounce. So I'm so glad. Kenny is really just like easygoing and kind. I feel like he has a really relatable story, and I loved how he didn't kind of over fluff it. He was really honest about how much work they were able to put into things and what they would do going forward. So there's a lot of really good advice in there, and it's exciting to see kind of where he's going to go now with the medium-term strategy. Of course, I love talking about that. But yeah, I think it's a really cool newer strategy, and a lot of people are getting into it. So it's nice to see people taking advantage of that good cash flow.
Yeah, Kenny's just such a straight shooter. I love that. One thing that I'm curious about, this might be a selfish question, is are there property managers for short-term or medium-term rentals?
Maybe. I mean, I do know one. She has about 100 that she manages, and she's in Savannah. So she's not going to be local, to Denver, but she only charges 10%, which is pretty awesome. And you don't need to be local. I think I could find you somebody if you were wanting to change one of yours that would be local to Colorado.
Sure, because I've got 2 1-bedrooms in City Park, just north of City Park. And you just said that was a good area to medium-term rental, and so maybe I can get a little bit more for my little. That was my first little baby. So
your little cuties, yeah. I mean, I do love that he pointed that out. Is that I think a lot of people get overwhelmed where they think, "Oh my God, I really want a house hack. The first thing I need to buy is going to be like a 5-bedroom house," which is often pretty expensive. So it's great when you can even just start with a 1-bedroom place, and then maybe the next place you buy is a 2-bedroom place. Like, you don't have to buy super expensive stuff to get started. That's how I started as well. My Airbnbs were just 1 bedroom. So you build up over time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And again, it's all about the strategy that you want to do. And oftentimes, if you really don't want to live with somebody, you can buy a property, live there for a year, move out, rent it out. And then, you're not reducing your living expense, but you're still collecting rental properties year after year. And so over time, that's going to really help you out.
Absolutely.
So awesome, Z. Well, anything else you want to tell everybody before we head out of here for the week?
Well, our book is coming out. It's going to be on medium-term rentals. It's called 30-Day Stay. So I wrote a book with Sarah Weaver. Yeah, whoop whoop. And it is going to be available on pre-order in mid-September. So probably right around when this is coming out. And I will definitely be shooting it out to everybody. So if you follow us on Instagram, you will be the first to know. And if you are coming to BPCon, I think we're going to have some early books there. And we'll be doing book signing, which is pretty fun. So you can come hang out with me and Sarah.
Yay.
Mm-hmm.
You already are a rock star, but you're going to be like in the Rock Star Hall of Fame now. once the book comes
Can't
out.
wait.
You'll be celeb. You'll be big celeb.
Yeah.
Definitely pre-order the book. Pick up the book. It's going to be great if you're into short-term rentals at all. It's going to be amazing. So awesome, guys. If you haven't already, please leave us a rating, a review on iTunes. It tremendously helps us out. It helps us get the show out to as many people as we possibly can and just spread that word and that love of financial independence. So if you're listening all the way to the end, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you all next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.